Welcome to Geek Therapy Radio. You've got your mental curator, Johnny Hemberger. I am sitting here in my garage in my DeLorean. I might close the door here in a second, in case there's too many echoes in the garage. We'll see. I'm wearing a lav mic, so I'm trying to deaden the sound and control it as best as possible. I got camera 1 here and camera 2. Camera 1, camera 2. Camera 1,
Wayne's
camera
World.
2, camera 1, camera 2. Wayne's World, exactly. This is going to be a good interview. So, actually, as you were, I read a Facebook post recently. Let me set this up a little bit. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that we are both sitting in DeLoreans. So, Colby just bought a DeLorean hours ago. What amounts to hours ago, maybe a few days ago. Colby actually rented my DeLorean. I've got a 1983 DeLorean DMC 12, VIN number 15575, and Colby rented it out. Didn't you rent it out in like July or something? And my car has no AC.
Yeah, it was like July 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was all about it. He's like, dude, you have no idea how stoked I am on DeLoreans. And that's a roundabout way of bringing us to, I'm probably gonna have to turn that light on, unless it looks, I'm gonna have to turn that light on. Edit point. Hold on. And we're back. Sorry about the little edit point there, but my garage lights went off. It'll be a fun thing to see on YouTube, the lights shutting off mid-conversation. Anyways, back to what we were talking about. Colby, you rented my DeLorean back in July 2020. It was the first DeLorean that you had ever driven. Can you tell me your life history with DeLoreans and your geek I'm going to call it geek obsession because it's the same geek obsession I had and still have. So start us from the beginning of your DeLorean history.
Okay, so way back in elementary school, I can't remember which grade it was. It was probably like third grade, something like that. Third, fourth grade. I was homesick, and my mom and me and my mom were in like her room watching movies because moms. And Back to the Future came on cable. And I had never seen it before. I was just a little kid. I didn't really care. But then the scene where the car comes rolling off the back of the Doc Brown truck, I was like, what's this? I was obsessed immediately. Watched all 3 that day. Now, as far as my obsession for DeLoreans go, I love the car far more than I will ever love that movie. The movie's cool and all, but I immediately loved the stock factory version of the car far above the modified version in the movies. So I went away from that, and my parents were separated at the time. So I would be going back and forth to my grandfather's house, and my grandparents and my dad lived there. Going back and forth from there to my mom's, from there into my mom's. And every weekend I'd go over to my grandparents' house. I'd be like, DeLorean, 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 and have you guys heard of this? Do you know what this is? Like, I was obsessed. It got to a point where it was like a unhealthy obsession in their eyes too. It was annoying, needless to say.
How old were you at this point?
I'm just going to shoot to 8 to 10 years old.
Okay,
it's a little foggy.
Yep.
But I guess the first real landing I could put on it is in 2006. I was 11. I had finally talked about DeLoreans enough to where my grandma and grandfather actually took me to the Chicago DeLorean car show that they had going on, DCS 2006.
Cool.
And we walked around, all the days. We had our rental Hyundai Sonata that my grandfather didn't realize that everyone didn't want in their DeLorean convoys, but we we spoiled their photo shoot at the particle collider photo. There was DeLorean, Hyundai. It was just funny.
Were there see, real quick, like the DeLorean owners, every DeLorean owner I've ever met, it seems to be like one of the most friendly overall car communities ever. Like we know what the car is, we know the movie history, we know the cultural history. So every DeLorean owner I've ever met for the most part. I personally can't think of one that's been, an a-hole about anything. So the fact that there was a Hyundai Sonata, did any DeLorean owners actively turn their noses up at you?
Not at all. Not one of them cared at all. They were all super friendly. And you know what? We found our little, so everyone, we're at an expo. So there's like tables, there's dinners and stuff. We found a table and made friends with DeLorean owners. And I think the first friend we made was, I forget the guy's name, but he had that yellow DeLorean that it's like the yellow DeLorean. Everyone knows what it is. Is it
in the interior is completely redone too? Is that heavily modified?
It's yellow. It's got it had an Eagle engine. Its fate lied. It burnt down in a garage fire in the last like 5 years, and was sold on eBay half on fire. But we made friends with him. I met Mr. Strickland from Back to the Future, the first Marty's girlfriend. And it was cool. And there was like 4 Back to the Future cars. There was also that gray, that like Batmobile modified DeLorean was there. The dark matte black one with the yellow seats. Cool. There was the DeLorean there that had the front and rear engine. It had the Honda front engine and the Cadillac rear. So it was the guy from Monster Garage that got kicked off because he had a disagreement with Jesse James for building the DeLorean hovercraft.
Wow.
Anyway, I was at that show. I won, actually, fun fact, a key blank, not one. I think I bought a key blank. No, I won a little raffle gift basket there. It came with like a painted, hand-drawn like picture of a DeLorean exploded view picture, and a key blank and a keychain. So more on that later. But fast forward to 2007, the open house in the Humble location came up. So DeLorean in Houston at their, headquarters had an open house in 2007. And, I was like, hey, we don't have to go to Chicago this time. We're going to this. Right. And we were there. We saw the same yellow DeLorean dude. He was there. And we met the Owens. They sat at our table as well. Samantha Owen, and I'm not going to try to pronounce her name. It starts with an A. It's like Angie Owen or something like that. But we sat at their table with them, and we got to talking, and I was like, hey, I've never ridden in a DeLorean. I was 12 at the point. Can I ride with you to the DMC headquarters from the hotel? And my grandpa will give like your wife a ride or whatever. And I came out, sat in the car. We rode over to DeLorean, and then did the activities there. And then we rode to the Baytown racetrack, and I rode in the yellow DeLorean over there. So 2 Eagle swap DeLoreans were the first DeLoreans I rode in. There was the raffle contest, and I won DeLorean headliner. So to the right of your head, I won the T-piece.
Oh, a T-piece. Okay.
Yeah, the T-piece and the headliner above the door cutouts there. Yeah. Yeah. I won the full set. So awesome. They called me up, and they're like, what are you going to do with this? And, I'm a little 12-year-old. I'm like, I'm going to put it on my wall. I was like, I was just stoked. And I got back to the table where the Owens were, and they're like, we'll buy it. I was like, okay. And then we met the next day. I gave them the parts. They gave me the money, and there we go. And then they gave me about like 100 issues of DeLorean World and, the DeLorean magazines. And that was awesome. And I still have all those. And then I didn't talk to them for a long time, and my DeLorean obsession continued. I would daydream that my grandfather would come around the corner at elementary school and pick me up to surprise me. Hey, we got one. For many years, I was pestering them about buying one.
Were your parents or your grandfather, when I first broached the idea of getting a DeLorean to my dad, maybe I was 15 or 16 years old, going over the whole thing about how I would pay for it. There's an age disparity between you and I, Colby. When I was talking about getting a DeLorean, it was like 1998, 1999, around that time. And we saw Lauren here out in Hempstead, Texas. And long story short, I got it. You don't have to give me the price on yours, although I am curious. You can tell me off the air if you want, or on the air. I got this for $9,500, and yeah, I know, I don't exactly. So, anyways, the sticker was for like, as it was sitting there on the lot, just kind of rotting away in the Texas sun. The sticker was like 12.5 or 15, something like that, and I was just going over with my dad, like, here's how I'd pay for it. I'll give you every paycheck. I was working at Subway at the time, pre-Jared's Subway, like way back. I was like, I'll give you just every paycheck from Subway. I'll pay it off in this amount of time, da-da-da-da. And my dad's biggest qualm about that wasn't like, you want a car? It wasn't like that at all, because when I was 16, my first car was a 74 Volkswagen Beetle that he bought off of my brother. Whole separate story. Anyways, his deal was, and what I'm getting at with your parents and your grandfather is, my dad was like, not a DeLorean. Like, it's ridiculous that you're thinking about a DeLorean for so many reasons. He's like, DeLoreans they're pieces of crap. You're not going to be able to get parts for them. It's such an exotic thing. It's going to break down all the time. Blah blah blah. He bought into. My dad's got a pretty close connection with the DeLorean story. I'll save that for another thing. It involves Larry Flint in the whole cocaine scandal. My dad worked for Entertainment Tonight at the time. He was a reporter, and that's a whole separate affair. Anyways, he's like, it's ridiculous. DeLorean, just ridiculous. DeLorean's not going to happen. Long story short, I brokered a deal between my mom and my grandmother and paid it back how I said I'd pay it back, and it's in my name and everything like that. So did your grandfather or any parental unit offer resistance, like, you're never going to get a DeLorean, or were they encouraging, like, yeah, work hard, maybe one day?
I'd say my mom, she's like the most easygoing person in the world. She really didn't care. She was just like, yeah, sure, awesome. My dad was one of the you'll never find parts for it kind of people, because it's a 40-year-old car. How are you going to find parts for it? And like, that's stupid. It's impractical. But also, he's like more of a brother to me than like a father figure. Like, he's a father figure, obviously, but he's like so chill and like, he's friends with my friends. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So he said things like, hey, you'll never find parts for it. But at the same time, he'd be like, hell yeah, So it was like not a stiff thing there.
That's cool.
My grandfather was actually super into it with me. And he'd like started buying like DeLorean tapes, like from car shows in the past. And like, he got into it with me. And
that's awesome.
My grandmother, I felt like while she enjoyed it, it was like a headache. She was like, oh man, like, here we go. Like,
Yeah.
So he was very supportive of it and into it with me. So it was like kind of our thing.
Was he into classic cars?
No,
general?
He's not a car guy whatsoever. He's a real estate appraiser in Houston, and he likes fishing. And
were you into any other, like, I found that
his first car was a Willis Jeep.
That's awesome, dude. That's crazy. So I found in my history of ownership with the DeLorean that even after I got the DeLorean, I didn't consider myself a car guy. Like, I had a friend who is absolutely like just born and bred car guy. Like, he would trade cars every 2 weeks. He'd swap and trade and he knew everything about like displacement and pistons and crankcases and turbos and superchargers, and like he was a car guy. He was like a Jay Leno car guy. And I never thought of myself as that. Cars in general weren't on the top of my list of geek things. Like, yeah, if I saw a Lamborghini drive by or a Ferrari, I'd be like, that's a Ferrari or Lamborghini, or I might even mix them up, but I knew I could recognize like cool cars. I only found that it was kind of later on through working with the car myself, like working with my hands and everything, that I started to appreciate car culture. And through the DeLorean, I found myself like officially becoming a car geek especially for classic cars. Like, I'm not a car geek about a Hyundai Sonata, but I am a car geek about like any sort of classic car, offbeat classic cars, especially vintage Volkswagens. Like, my other car obsession is vintage Volkswagens. I've had 2 Beetles. So for you, have you grown an appreciation or like a greater understanding of car culture through your, I wouldn't say owning a DeLorean because you've had it for 5 seconds, but through your passion for DeLorean, did any other cars creep in there as kind of a side chick when it comes to the DeLorean?
Definitely.
Or was it just DeLorean?
So I was a car guy since I was like 5. When Fast and the Furious came out, I was obsessed. My sister's boyfriend at the time, when I was a little kid, had an MR2, and that's like a second dream car of mine, like the 90s MR2.
Oh, a 90. I had a 2000. So I had a 2001 Gen 3 MR2. The BR, what is it? The moniker BR's, not BRZ. So that's a separate car. What was the ZZ? I forget the moniker of it. So anyway, I had a 2001 MR. Right? It was MR2 Spider. Loved 5-speed manual transmission the way God intended. It was an awesome car. I don't like to think how little I sold it for when I sold it just a couple years ago. It was the best bang for the buck car ever. And for those of you uninitiated, MR2s have always been mid-engine. The DeLorean is technically rear engine since the engine sticks over the rear axle. But MR2s are set up the same way a Lamborghini and the same way a Ferrari is. It's the same type of mid-engine weight distribution. 4-cylinder, gets all the gas mileage in the world. It handles amazingly. It was awesome. And so the end of that story is that after I had it for a year or two, I had Matt Farah on the show. Do you know who Matt Farah is? He's the Smoking Tire.
That name sounds I know that name. He's done a few DeLorean reviews. He had a DeLorean. I had him on and we were just talking cars and everything. And I was like, so what do you think I should do with this was back in like 2018 or pre-pandemic. It was just the explosion of used cars and especially the explosion of used Japanese sports cars. So in like 2017, 2018, 2019, maybe around there, I had the MR2 Spider. I was like, what should I do with it, Matt? I was like, I might start a family here soon. What do you think I should do? He's just like, just ring it out and then sell it. Like, don't lose money on it. You like, just get the miles per gallon and just kind of, sell it to the next guy. Whatever. Brush it off. Yeah.
He was saying, and he was basically saying that it wasn't like, and he was right at the time. He was 100% right. He's like, it's not worth any money, so just get all the fun you can out of it and then pass it on to the next guy or girl. So that's what I did, and I sold it for. I bought it for $3,000. I sold it for, I don't even want to say. I sold it. This is gonna hurt. This is where it equals out with the DeLorean purchase. I bought it for $3,000. I sold it for like less than $1,000. Because it needed some engine work. It needed the engine to be rebuilt. It still ran fine, but I was like, and I had a baby on the way. I was like, I need to get rid of it. Dude, that car now all day is $10,000. Like all day long, easily. $10,000. And I bought it for $3,000, sold it for less than $1,000. That is the one thing that sometimes at night I'm just like, like it bothers me so much that I sold it 1 year before it just exploded. Go on Auto Trader right now and try to find a Gen 3, even a Gen 3. Go try to, don't try to get a 90s MR2. Those things are off the hook. The turbos
before
especially.
I bought this, I was going to buy a 90s MR2. Like I said,
what do you think the average price was for 90s?
$7,000 for cruddy one and 15 for a nice one,
Yeah.
you know?
And I would say I would say probably without checking right now as I'm recording that I would say like any generation of MR2 is probably this within the same sort of price range, but the 90s turbos are going to be the standout ones. I would love to have a 90s MR2. I would love to have an 80s MR2. I would love to have 3 MR2s. It's just like laying around, of course. But yeah, I loved MR. It was a bucket list car. So in that sense, I was very happy that I had my fling with it for a couple years. It was a very much so a ancient history. I got divorced in like 2016, and it was after that. I'm married now. I have a kid, and life is amazing. But after that divorce, I was like, you know what, bucket list car, I'm just going to do it. It was kind of a silly, like, I really shouldn't be spending $3,000 right now, but this is for the soul. And it very much helped. Like I'm so happy. There was zero buyer's remorse. The only remorse I have for that car is seller's remorse that I got rid of it because I don't have it anymore. It was a blast to drive. B, that I lost so much money on it, and I could have made so much money on it. But anyway, so the DeLorean wasn't your only, it was your main obsession, but you still had an eye and an appreciation for other cars.
So things like Lamborghinis and such, Lamborghinis and things like that, they were cool. Nothing got me. No car in the entire world. I've seen a McLaren F1. I've seen a Ferrari F40. No car in the entire world got me like when I see a DeLorean.
Right.
Like, it's like, you know that feeling when you see something like I don't want to say, I don't know how to put it, but it gives me like a feeling in my stomach.
Right.
Like, ooh, like,
oh yeah,
only car in the world.
Right.
But when I got my license when I was 16, I wanted a DeLorean, but there was no way. I started my Toyota off-road obsession, and I've had 2 FJ Cruisers, 2 4Runners, 4 80 series Land Cruisers, a Tundra, and 2 GX 470s. I'm on my second GX 470 currently. That's my daily driver.
Is that out of the garage behind the Delo?
Yeah, it's right behind the DeLorean.
Always park one of your dailies like behind the Delo so that it's extra protection, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. You know it. But yeah, I've had a Toyota off-road obsession. I'm 26 now, so for the last 10 years, I've been changing through those like that. They're cheap. I love off-roading. I love rock crawling. I love the outdoors. And I never cared for car culture in terms of I'm going to go smoke a vape in a parking lot at 3 a.m. with my 350Z, you know? What I'm talking about.
Yes. But you know what you're going to do now?
Probably that, minus the vape.
Yeah, minus the vape, whatever. But here's what I used to do back in like high school, college age, because the other part of the story is that this was my daily for a long time. I delivered pizza with it for 2 years. Pizza with this DeLorean. Anyways, so one thing I would do is around the Humble area, which is where DMC is officially located, on the other side of 1960, a little past the mall, there was a James Coney Island, and there would be like Friday night, Saturday night kind of impromptu meetups, car shows, and there were cool cars there. Like that's where anybody in the area knew to be there at 5 p.m. with whatever they got. Lambos, classic cars. I don't know if it's not PC to say ricers anymore, but ricers. That's a term for the cars. That's a term for those.
I don't know.
For the slam fast turbo. Yeah. So, anyways, what I would do
I got ricer wheels on my car, so
you do right now, exactly. Anyways, so I would know those car shows, and every once in a while, if I was already out and about, I would cruise the DeLorean slowly through it. Like I never stopped at the car show because really it was just like, oh yeah, it's down the street, let's just go cruise through it. I didn't have time to stop and do whatever, but I would cruise through it slowly, just to like, I wanted to create like a little bit of a buzz, and people would be like looking like, what the hell is that? Is that a DeLorean? What? Like people like, it was before smartphones, and people were snapping pictures with, those the Kodak disposable fun cameras, snap, not even digital, man. It was like snap. Yeah. So I would cruise through those like that. And you were telling me before we started recording here that I want to talk about your specific DeLorean, because it's a semi-famous DeLorean in the DeLorean community. Any DeLorean that's kind of been modified a different way, a lot of DeLorean owners know about the one that you bought. So especially in Texas. So because it came from Austin. So before we started recording here, you were selling a part of the car, we'll get to in a second, to somebody in a GTR, and they wanted a ride in the DeLorean, of course. And then, like you said, the neighbors came out, and it turned into a big thing. You hadn't talked to these people and all of a sudden it was a car show, and you were pulled this way and that. I was telling my wife, like, yeah, he went out to, sell a car part and wound up giving a ride, and then the neighbors came out, this whole thing. And my wife's just like, yeah, tell him to get used to it. So so I'm telling you, man, you can't, like, you're not just going to the gas station to get gas. And it's not a bad thing, because DeLorean owners are cut from the same cloth that we like to share what we have. I like to have people come and like sit in it and touch things respectfully and get close to it and feel it, because I know for a lot of people that's the closest they've ever been. And let's say you see somebody show up at a gas station in a $300,000 Ferrari, there's no freaking way they're letting you within 10 feet of their car.
No, and you don't want to ask.
And you don't want to ask, but people can't help but come up like to the DeLorean. Yeah. It's a movie star. Like they're meeting a real life movie star, and they want to see it. And I feel like I'm an ambassador for the car. Plus, I just have joy in my heart to share it. Like it's not a stretch. Yeah. It's not me. Like, oh, I don't want to, show the car to this person. Like, no, I want to show it. There are some times though that I have to plan, like if I have to be somewhere, in a timely manner, where I have to plan out how I'm going to go about it, or what I'm going to say to people on the rare occasion that I say, I don't have tons of time. I'll always take a picture, but I don't have a ton of time to stick around. So I'm just giving you the heads up, I've had mine for it's going to be 22 years in July, that you get to start planning your trips in it. And sometimes you go out and you have all the time in the world, you're going to cruise, and like, I can't wait to bring joy to people. Like it's going to bring joy to somebody who is 100 years old. It's going to bring joy to somebody who's 3 years old. They all know the car, and it doesn't matter their race, their gender, their religion, their background, whatever. 90-year-old grandmas love DeLoreans the same way a 4-year-old who just saw Back to the Future does. And so are you prepared to share your love with the world, basically, is what I'm asking.
150%. And I'd say I'm 3 days into ownership. And I've had probably 10 people that I've never met in my life sit in the car today, and at least 15 to 20 come up and comment about it. Right. I had an old lady. I had 3 random guys at a gas station when I got gas. My neighbors that I've lived here a year and a half and never met really any of my neighbors, and I've met 4 of them tonight because of the car. Yep. 2 of them turned out to be car guys, just like me. Who would have thought? Yesterday, my office is at next to a walking trail. I was parked next to my boss's C8 2022 Corvette. Oh, awesome. And we were just looking at them, and then a guy is riding a scooter by, and he brakes hard, and he's like, "Oh, hell yeah." And he gets out, doesn't even look at the Corvette, comes straight to the DeLorean, and he's flipping out over it. He's like, "I'm from New York City. I'm a truck driver. I've never seen one." Like, I gave him a ride in it. He he loved it. I tell people, like, I bought it to make people's day. And
10 out of 10.
Like it makes my day to make their day.
And 10 out of 10 times, this is no exaggeration at all. for as far as the general public is concerned, 10 out of 10 times, if you parked a DeLorean next to a McLaren F1, the DeLorean is pulling the crowd. The DeLorean's pulling the crowd, and then they will like, oh, what's this other thing? It doesn't matter what car the DeLorean's next to. It could be a brand new, like Lamborghini Aventador. I don't know if they still make those. It could be like a new LaFerrari. It can be the new model, the new Tesla Roadster. Whenever it comes out, the Tesla Roadster, and then next to the DeLorean, it could be Cybertruck. Actually, if it was by the Cybertruck, yes, the crowd would be DeLorean. Most of the crowd would be DeLorean, and then they would obviously notice the Cybertruck, and they would start seeing the similarities between the Cybertruck and the DeLorean as far as the design, the fascia, the angles, the stainless steel, but even down to the bodywork and plastic and everything like that, and even the lights. It's all, the Cybertruck is modeled, I've done a video on this, heavily after the DeLorean, heavily after the DeLorean. So the DeLorean, no matter where you pull it up, it's gonna beat any car next to it, any car around it in terms of excitement and initial crowd. Then they will move on to the other cars. I love the C8 Corvette. I got to ride, I haven't driven one, but I've got to ride around in a blue one, a Stingray. It was exceptional. If I had the money, and if it was like actually 60 grand, I would buy one in a freaking heartbeat. I love the new Corvette. But I know that if you parked side by side on the street, the DeLorean, like you said, is gonna pull the initial reaction. People are gonna drive by, they're gonna ride by the Corvette and think that's one of those new Corvettes. That's awesome. They're gonna slam on their brakes for the DeLorean, sometimes dangerously. I could go on for hours. I'll try not to, but I could go on for hours with stories of just DeLorean stories, and a couple in particular where people have, and be careful about this, Colby. People are so focused on the car. Like if you pull up to a four-way stop or an intersection, I've had people blow straight through red lights and straight through stop signs just looking at the car. They're going slow. They slowed down to see it, but they didn't. It was like the stop sign never was there. And I'm just like looking out for them, like, holy crap, you're gonna get in a wreck. You know, they're cruising by saying Marty, but like it can be dangerous. And even on the freeway, people will, it doesn't happen, it happens enough for it to be noticeable and a concern. People like flanking you, like you kind of boxing you in a little bit to where you can't, they'll stay in your blind spot or whatever, they'll stay ahead of you or beside you, and like, I need it, you know, you got the blinker on, like, I need to get over, you know, but you're not trying to be an asshole. I need to bleep that out. You're not trying to be an a-hole. You're just like, I'm just saying, people in traffic situations can get a little dicey in the DeLorean. The DeLorean, I'm used to the visibility, but the visibility isn't like a convertible Mini.
It's actually really good.
It's good. It's really good for a car of this class. It's amazing, but I'm just saying it's not as good as a convertible. Over your left shoulder here, your blind spot, especially with a pillar back here, it's not super great compared to like modern, you know, safety managed cars. So
I daily drove an FJ Cruiser for many years, and that's about the biggest blind spot you can drive. So this is nothing compared to that.
Right. And what I got from, I'm currently not renting it at the moment because I need to do some work to it. You can see on the video, I've got the louvers up because I'm dealing with a coolant issue. I think I got a blockage. I need to like completely flush the coolant, and I need it need a new master and or slave cylinder in the clutch. The travel isn't, it doesn't engage and disengage fully right now.
Oh no.
But that's all thing. I mean, it's 40 years old. Like things are gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
The master cylinder in here is probably 40 years old. It was probably installed in Ireland. So it's not like, oh, this piece of crap is just breaking down. Like, it's a 40-year-old part. Like, there's a Honda Civic isn't going to last 40 years. Like you're going to buy a new Civic Si or even a base model Civic, it's not going to be here in 2060. It's going to have disintegrated into the ground. So the fact that a DeLorean is still here after the test of time is actually a testament to its reliability and its longevity, that it's still here. Yeah, you're gonna have to replace some parts because rubber turns into 40-year-old rubber and blah blah blah. I don't even remember specifically what I was talking about. Just that
It
Yeah,
started at any car could be around it, and the DeLorean wins.
And the DeLorean wins. So I've got all sorts of stories. Let's talk about your specific DeLorean now. I remember seeing a video on YouTube about it. I'm sure you've seen it. You probably watched it 1,000 times by now.
I have.
Yeah, it was so long ago when I saw it. It might have been, I'm gonna say 5 to 10 years ago when I first saw the video. And I remember commenting on the video. Maybe my comment's still there.
It is. I saw it and I was like, "Hey, it's Johnny."
Yeah, I think I was asking like, that looks like North or Central Texas. I think it was, at the time it was Dallas. I think it was up in Coppell. Maybe it was always Austin. Always in Austin.
It was
okay.
Austin.
So yeah, I was always in Austin, and I don't remember if I commented on it this next sentiment, but I remember thinking, not agreeing with the modifications that had been made, but just in the vein that like I would never do that. I was not judging the owner for doing that, because really, like, it does look cool. Like they fit the form and shape of the car. I'm just saying that as a purist, like so this master and slave cylinder that I might have to replace, I'm already just like, and then it's not going to be original anymore, even though it's going to be an original part going into it. I'm just like, I'm trying to hold on to every original part on this car as long as humanly possible. So when I see people heavily modifying theirs, it's something that I would never do, but I'm always but I always respect other people, what they do to it, because it's theirs, and they're making it theirs, and they're doing what they want to, they're doing what makes them happy with it, and I'm all for that. And even super vainly and super selfishly, like the last thought on that is that, like, hey man, if they're modifying it so heavily, it just makes the value of mine go up even more, which at the end of the day is kind of moot and null, because it's not ever for sale. I mean, I'm gonna leave it. I know what that's like. I'm leaving it to my son. It's just not for sale. Someone would have to show up on my property with just a suitcase full of like 6 figures. Like, that's the only way I would even, and even then it would be like a debate. I'd be like, give me 24 hours to think about it. So it's not for sale. You're going to get offers all the time for yours. You're going to sit there and
I got one today for $6,500.
6,500. Like, get out of here. My goodness, 6,500. What are you talking about?
I was at a gas station.
65. I'll give you 6,500 cash right now. I wouldn't modify my car in any sort of semi-permanent way. Like, I have footwell lights that I put in here. I went to like O'Reilly or AutoZone and got some LED strips and you remember, you rented the car. Some footwell lights blue ones that help, they really help in here, and I can easily just take them out if I need to. I have replaced almost all the interior lights and the door lights and brake lights and stuff with LEDs. I'm 100% about helping the electrical system anywhere that I can in this car, including I upgraded the radiator fans to new modern low amp draw, high airflow radiator fans from Delorean Motor Company. It's officially from Delorean Motor Company. They are amazing. They blow like leaf blowers. They're awesome. So I will make tasteful reliability mods like that. But I personally would not put like wings on it. I probably wouldn't mess with the wheels too much. I probably wouldn't put racing seats in here unless I kept the originals somewhere. So back to your car, what has been done to it? What's the last few VIN numbers if you haven't already memorized it? And what's been done to it? And what do you? 4753 is the VIN number. What year is that?
81, October 81.
Does yours have the gas flap in the hood?
It does not, unfortunately. Okay. It's post gas flap, but it's still got the grooves.
Right, they all do. My 83 does also. So, what has been done? What has been done to yours, and what do you plan to do with it?
So, I am like you. If I had the option to have bought a completely stock DeLorean, I would have preferred to do that. But I don't know if you've noticed, but the market over the last few years has gone up. And if I actually made a comparable market analysis, nothing is sold for under 50 in like a few months now.
That's crazy, man.
So
Crazy.
what has been done to this car is it was heavily modified probably 15 something years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Eagle Premier engine that they picked up on eBay from a 1988 Eagle Premier.
Mm-hmm.
They shipped it over to Florida and had it built up, ported, polished, the whole 9 yards. I need to learn a lot more about what has been done to it in terms of performance, but it's been turbocharged. It's running 4 PSI of boost. Let's see.
Is it a 6-cylinder? Is that a 6-cylinder Eagle?
Yes.
Okay.
So the Eagle Premier engine is actually still a PRV. So it's still a PRV like that was in the DeLorean, but it's a 3.0 versus a 2.8. And they had done upgrades over the years to make it a better engine. It's electronically fuel injected versus the K-Jet. Right. So it's got EFI, a turbocharger, intercooler. It's got a lot going on. It's got a custom Haltech ECU. It was built for performance. Now,
is it manual or automatic? I don't remember.
Out of factory, it was automatic, but it had been swapped to a manual when the engine conversion was done.
Okay.
It also has the Eibach DeLorean springs. It has some aftermarket like racer style wheels that I don't care for. It had a giant carbon fiber wing on it that I took off within the first 10 minutes of ownership.
Yeah.
So my plans are to try to take it back to a stock look. So I'm going to put stock wheels back on it if I could find them. It's got the wide stripe on the side that was the dealer option. The big black stripe. I'm going to try to remove that and then regrain underneath it because I like the stripeless ones. And later on, when I get to walk around the car, I'll show you a ridiculous modification that had been done for car shows. It makes me laugh. It'll be a fun party trick later. But it's highly modified.
Yeah. So I just closed the door because I realized I've been going through the whole video without the door, seeing it with the door closed. Just give people an A and B. The engine, do you have any plans to replace that? Or because here's the thing about the engine. Let me preface this a little bit. Mm-hmm. I don't morally object to engine swaps in the DeLorean where it like makes sense and where it doesn't where it does minimal like kind of damage. For instance, and people have swapped other PRVs. PRV engines, by the way, have been in millions of cars and used by like so many manufacturers. It's not a rare engine at all. Peugeot, Renault, Volvo. It's a partnership. It was even used in Dodges up until like 92.
So the Dodge Monaco is an Eagle Premier.
Okay.
That's the same thing.
Right, because Dodge and Eagle, exactly. So anyways, Dodge and Eagle. Anyways, so engine swaps, I don't really, I'm okay with morally, and that's because John DeLorean hated that they had to go with this PRV. Absolutely hated it. He was shopping other engines around, like Mitsubishi twin turbos and all sorts of things. Like it was purely a last minute budget thing that they went with a readily available crate engine, the PRV. So like people doing engine swaps, that's in this, to me, that is at least in the spirit of what the creator of the car wanted. So if someone puts in someone like as popular as far as rare cars are concerned is the LS swap DeLoreans. There's one guy who did an awesome LS swap, and that thing is a monster. The only thing, my only caveat with the engine swaps and everything is, yeah, on paper it looks and sounds really cool. Like, let's put a 500 horsepower, like 7-liter LS, like whatever into here and just blast it. But the thing, like the stock transmission can only handle up to a certain horsepower and torque, so you're not getting the full 500 out of the 500 horsepower engine swap. The tranny, I think, can handle up to, like, I think on the specs is something around 300 horsepower or so. But the thing is, to me, the DeLoreans I've been in, one of the first DeLoreans that I've been in, the only other DeLorean that I've been in that wasn't mine, was back in the late, it was early 2000s. It was before DMC moved to Humble. They were down here in Southwest Houston, basically. And Stephen Wynn took me on a ride in his DeLorean at the time, which had it was like painted black, whatever, had been lowered down on the eyebox springs, had the stage, I think the stage 2 they were working on. Maybe it was the stage 3 they were working on. He's like, this one puts out around 220 horsepower. This is what a DeLorean should have always handled like. Let's go for a ride. And he took me in it, and I was like, I mean, it was on freaking rails. Like, that thing was sticking to the road, changing direction, throw you back in your seat acceleration. It was like probably 5.5 seconds, 0 to 60, something like that, which for a DeLorean is pretty good. So my only caveat with like the super high horsepower engine swaps is, one, if you're going to do that, the tranny needs more bolstering. You need another transmission in there if you're going to do that. 2, the sweet spot for me, just in my opinion with a DeLorean, is 250 horsepower. Like, if you get to the power to the weight ratio, if you can get 250 out of the stock PRV through some forced induction or whatever you got to do, that 250 is the peach, because then you're getting under 6 seconds, 0 to 60. You're probably getting between maybe 4, 5.5, somewhere around there with 250. Think of it like putting 250 horsepower in a BRZ or a GT86
exactly.
or a FRS. It's the same exact weight. It's the same exact power to weight ratio. Put 250 horsepower in a BRZ and you're going to get that 0 to 60 probably under 5 seconds. So that, to me, 250 plus, that's what the stock tranny will handle all day long. You could romp on it. You can drop the clutch in it all you want in the tranny. The stock tranny will handle it. The stock tranny, I think, is a Renault transmission.
I do believe so. Mine's actually been reinforced when the engine was swapped. They actually reinforced the shaft. I forgot what it's called. I gotta do my studying. They reinforced something between the engine and the transmission to where it could handle the extra horsepower. Supposedly this one's pushing about 200. It's something like that. So supposedly this one's doing 200. It's at 4 PSI on the turbo. It's built for 30.
Wow.
Honestly, at 4 PSI, I'm having a blast driving it. It's not like fast, but it puts you in your seat, and it's like, it's fun, you know?
Right. Exactly.
The recent popular engine swap that went viral was the Kia Stinger twin turbo swap.
Yeah.
They used a Porsche transmission on that one, and that's like 500 something horsepower. That one's pretty cool.
Which is all, I mean, like as a car dude, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, that is so cool. I'm just thinking, like, as a purist, like, get the stock PRV up to 250, and that's like
it's
in your perfect.
You know, I'm a fan of the PRV. I don't believe that it was crap. I believe it was choked by emission standards.
Big time.
The Euro spec ones were great. They were 180 horsepower. But the fact that I still have a PRV is what's important to me. It still holds somewhat true. It's just a little bit updated, 10 years of innovations, PRV.
And like, just the fact that John DeLorean was actively seeking out like the Mitsubishi twin turbo.
Yeah.
If you think John DeLorean wanted to stay pure to PRV, no, like we mentioned before, he despised that. He would take an engine from any manufacturer that he could get a good supply of, and that was reliable enough. The PRV was just a placeholder. It was never meant. The 84 DeLorean was supposed to be twin turbo and have all the power, So any sort of engine swap in the DeLorean, as far as I'm concerned, is okay. I know that maybe not so much now, that theoretically it could decrease the value of the car if someone's looking for just a pure DeLorean.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I don't think anybody who knows the car, anybody who's going to buy a DeLorean, who's done the research, and I would imagine it's most people, aren't going to be too thrown off by an engine swap. They'll be like, oh, you put a Stinger engine in here, 550? Like, that's not, if anything, that might, increase the value
what it sold
a little
for?
bit. Was that the one that sold for like 200 something?
It sold for 245 or something like that.
Is unfreaking believable.
Someone bought that
unreal.
engine swap DeLorean for 245 or
so how
250 something.
I mean, that's like that's just outrageous.
And then someone contacted them and said, "Can you build me one? I'll buy one." And so they're building the second one. They just started their series on the second one.
Do you know? Because I haven't watched that series yet. Do you know how much money went into the first one? Do you know?
I honestly don't know. I know they did all the work themselves. That's like they have a performance shop. I can't imagine it being anywhere remotely close to that. I think they buy non-running ones, and they did it right. They swapped the seats with like 80s style Recaros, and like it was a nice car, but $250,000 for a DeLorean.
Yeah,
you could buy an Aventador for that.
I wouldn't have believed it, and I love DeLoreans. Like I wouldn't have believed it unless I saw it for myself. That's crazy. It was like a few years ago, the whole auction collectible scene, no matter what it is, comic books, video games, cars, is off the rails right now. So there was that original sealed Super Mario Brothers cartridge in the clear box, in the cardboard box, with the I think it was the cardboard tab versus the plastic tab. It was like a 9.8 or a 9.9 as far as condition, and they put it was like Sotheby's or something like that. They put it up for bid for like $70,000, or starting bid was like 5 figures. And I did a podcast on it at the time. I was like, okay, so they put this, it was Super Mario Brothers. It's not even like a rare title. They put Super Mario Bros. Up there for $50,000 or $60,000 or whatever thereabouts it was, and I was like, this thing already is ridiculous at that price. Like I was like, I don't think they're gonna sell it. Like there's nobody insane enough out there to buy it at that price. I was like, and if they did sell it at any sort of profit, they might get $5,000, $10,000 more from an absolutely insane person. They might get like $60,000 or $70,000 out of this. I don't know. That thing wound up going for like $300-something thousand. It was like I just, for this kind of stuff, and like the $240,000 DeLorean, I just like I don't understand what's going on with the market. Like exactly. See, what's happening there, this is a really interesting topic, is that like people are they're showing off. The people who are buying this thing, they're artificially, like, they better pray that the market doesn't like stabilize with that the person who bought the $240,000 DeLorean, or even better, even more relevant would be the Nintendo cartridge for $300,000, that the market doesn't cool off after a while, which it will, because our generation will kind of grow out of it, and eventually these things aren't, in my opinion, not going to be worth that much. Like, but yeah, someone spending $300,000 on a Nintendo game, that was I'm 38 years old. I grew up with NES from like its inception. That was probably, I'm just guessing, another guy probably in his mid to late 30s who's just made millions of dollars, and just like just threw this FU money at the game, at the auction, just to be like in a bidding war with another person having to prove himself. And they inflated that so much that now there's a $300 cartridge, and it's not even about the cartridge. Like, it wasn't even like this dying desire to have this collectible. It wasn't to say, when they bring guests over and they have it in their collection, it wasn't to say, look at this Super Mario Brothers game I have. It's going to be, look what I spent $300,000 on. Like, that's the bragging thing. It
was like probably Elon Musk or something. Like,
dude, I don't know, man. Like, so, and a few years ago, I bought Commodore 64 in the DeLorean. I went to pick it up in the DeLorean because I had to.
Yeah.
It just made sense. The Commodore 64 came out, I think, in 80 or 81, around the same time as the DeLorean, maybe 82. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go pick up one that's been professionally refurbished by an electrical engineer with a new power supply, improved old power supply. It's a whole thing with Commodore 64s is the power supply is going to be notoriously bad. Blah, blah, blah. I spent like $90 on it. That was professionally restored, professionally refurbished, perfect working condition. I don't think you can buy a Commodore 64 now refurbished for probably less than $300. I don't know. I'm not looking at eBay at the moment, but like collectibles have just gone through the roof. Cars especially included. The car that I keep parked behind the DeLorean is I have a 2010 Audi S5, 6-speed manual transmission, 4.2 V8. Naturally aspirated, last of a dying breed type thing. Like they're not German auto manufacturers, Audi. They're not going to make anything naturally like a naturally aspirated V8 is probably not in the cards again. Yeah. As far as that series of vehicle is concerned, a coupe, it's just not going to happen. So I'm kind of holding on to that. That thing has I bought it used in 2013. I'm never going to make my money out of it. Like I didn't spend a new price. I spent maybe a third of what it cost new. But the value of it has been going up. Like I don't understand it. I'm happy that it is, and as it goes up, it just makes me more like reticent to, or I don't want to sell it. Like when I check the value of it, I'm like, it's still going up. I don't want to sell it. Plus, it was another one of my dream cars. I just wanted once in my life to own. I'm always a Volkswagen fan. I was like, I just want once in my life to get out off my chest, to get it out of my system. Manual transmission V8 German coupe. Yeah. I just want to get it out of my system, and I'll drive it, and then I'll get rid of it. And I was like, I'm going on 10 years with this thing. Like, and every time I think I want to sell it, I'm just like, I don't know if I can, because I don't know if they're ever going to make these things again. And if I ever want one of these things again, it's going to have skyrocketed in value. Anyways, I talk a lot as I usually do. There was one other thing. So tell me a little bit more about you have sort of a fun history, a fascinating history with this specific car. What is that?
So remember earlier when I was talking about how when I was 12 at the DMC open house in 2007, I rode in the first DeLorean I've ever ridden in. It was a Eagle swapped, all of that, from the Owens. Well, I kept their phone number since I had sold them the headliner. I kept their phone number all these years, and I decided to shoot them a text 4 weeks ago. I had been monitoring used DeLoreans. I actually called DeLorean Midwest. I asked, hey, what do you have? How much are your cars? It was starting to look like if I didn't get one now, I never will, because the prices on these are not going to go back down like they are on a Ford F-150. So they're skyrocketing due to the pandemic, just like everything, but they're not going to go back down.
Right. They might plateau a little bit. Yeah. You know, but with market, but they're not going to dip in value. It's going to plateau a little bit, and then it's going up.
It's no longer $9K for one. It's no longer $20K.
It's going to be six figures in the next.
$30K.
It's going to be six figures in the next 5 to 10 years is my prediction. 10 years is probably a safer bet, but yeah.
Exactly. So I was feeling the pressure. I said, if I don't get one now, I never will. And this has been my life obsession. I have to get one. So I texted them and said, do you still have the car? They said, yes, I still have it. I haven't driven it in 6 months. I've been working so much. I just don't have time for it anymore, really. And I said, please sell it to me, like half jokingly. Mm-hmm. And they said, well, everything has a price. I would sell it to you because I know you're an enthusiast. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I about to buy the car that was the first one I ever rode in when I was 12? I've had the headliner to this car, the factory Irish headliner, sitting on my desk since I was 12.
That's so cool.
And here it is, the car I rode in when I was 12. And that's just that it's so special to have a story like that to back it. It's not just any DeLorean; it's the DeLorean that I first rode in. The only downside to it was I didn't necessarily like the modifications done to it. The engine swap I love. That's great. I think that's a winner. I think the EFI alone makes this a good candidate for just reliability and all the above. I liked the engine swap, but the cosmetics of it, I didn't like. It had a massive carbon fiber spoiler that I took off. The wheels I'm going to change back to stock. I think we went over all that, but it came in Monday morning on a truck, and I've been driving it nonstop since. I'm a real estate appraiser. I have been driving it to all of my appointments all over town. The attention it's drawing has been insane. It's been great. It's just the connection. And here, I'll give a view of the headliner that I won when I was at that car show. And then I'll transition into the vehicle, and try to get the same angle you have. My struts are a little dead. I already placed an order at Delorean Go.
You're going to be out $60.
I know. And I had to buy weather seals for the doors because there are none.
Oh, yeah. That's something I need to do too. The seals in my doors are 40 years old.
There's the headliner that I won in 2007 at a DMC open house.
That's so cool, dude. That's
and
so
the
cool.
T-piece.
Yeah.
And then I'll transition into this view. Let's see if I could get it stable. There we go.
There you go, dude.
Am I too dark?
No, pull the door down. I just want to see.
There we go.
Let's do a 3, 2, 1 opening of the door. You ready?
Okay.
Oh, you got window. I want to tint mine too. I do like the tint. I will say I like the black look of the windows on the car. Personally, let's do a 3, 2, 1 door opening. 3, 2, 1. Nice. Yeah, you need struts.
My struts.
Yeah. See, I put these struts. These are. I don't think I got these from DeLorean. Maybe actually, I think I did. These are Stabilis struts.
Okay.
I
was researching them. Those are the ones from DeLorean, right?
I think they are from the DeLorean now. And the cool thing about them, for one thing, in the cold weather, struts aren't going to be as springy as in warm weather. But so in the summertime, my door will kind of go up. I mean, it'll shoot up. But the cool thing about these struts is that they have a dampener like at the end of the travel, so that it'll swing up, and then the last inch is super soft. It's like one of those drawers that you push shut that at the last inch is it's a really nice touch to it.
The ones I got have that same dampening effect. That's the reason I chose that. But I ordered them from DeLorean Go. I didn't realize they ship out of England, so I might be waiting for a little bit.
You'll be all right. And you see, the thing also, there's some debate among the DeLorean community, or there used to be, I don't know, about the torsion bars. And I got saggy doors and I need to adjust the torsion bars or something like that. And it's most of the time it's not the case. It's just replace the struts and you'll be okay.
Exactly.
Modern struts are so strong now that you'll be fine. And usually the torsion bars don't need adjustment. And I'm saying that as a warning to any DeLorean owners. Don't even think about trying to adjust the torsion bars yourself unless I would never dream of it doing myself. You really, really need to have the right tools and know what you're doing, or else you can kill yourself. This thing is under so many tons of twist. It's a rubber band made out of aircraft grade, cold, whatever. It's cryogenically twisted steel. If you undo the anchors at either side of the torsion bar, that thing, you're gonna die. You're gonna be impaled with a torsion bar.
Oh, no, I
it's
believe
gonna be
Stephen
nuts.
Wynn Stephen has a video, and he says something like, most owners mistakenly torque the torsion bars, and then they tweak their doors, and then their doors no longer will ever close right.
Right, you can do it. And I think on the a quirk and feature about my car is that the passenger door, it used to be a test when I was dating. I was like, all right, I'll give the girl another date if they can get the passenger door open, because it takes a very, very special touch to get the passenger door open, because it is a little bit off the grommets. In these gull wings, there's two grommet posts on both sides, and they have to be lined up just right. In most car doors, there's one grommet. There's a hinge at the front, and then there's one grommet it latches to. In the DeLorean, there's two grommets front and back, and the receptacle, or whatever you want to call it, the latches on both sides have to be lined up perfect. So on the on the driver's door, it is absolutely flawless, perfect, and on the passenger or the driver's door, it's perfect. The passenger door, it's not. And my theory behind that, having owned this for 22 years, it was like that when I got it. I have this like elaborate backstory. This is all for the podcast because we're running on. Yeah. But I have this elaborate like backstory in my head that it was a contractor who owned it before me. Like it was registered in like 1984 through the 90s or something like that, and it was registered to an LLC, like a contracting company, bought in the name of the company. And so the backstory I have for the doors is that the head contractor, the guy who owned the company, owned the car, and of course he knows how to open the door and handle it just right. But all of his dates all hopped up on cocaine, didn't know how to do the passenger door. That's the elaborate story that I have, is that he's got this girl in like 1985 just all coked out, just like
not knowing what's going on,
just like bashing on the lever and slamming things and like that. It's probably completely untrue, but that's just I like to be like, all right, they probably did.
What's funny is, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so like you're in your car, and anybody who's seen the DeLorean has this massive center console, just like a Lotus or anything else. But in the DeLorean, and I'm completely joking here, and again, this is 100%, yeah, exactly, 100% just for the podcast, is that it's so flat on the top that it was like made for doing rails of cocaine. Like, just it's probably, so that goes into my little kind of elaborate make-believe story that the contractor who owned the company owned the car, and in his dates just doing rails off the center console here, and just like freaking out trying to get out of the side door there, all Wolf of Wall Street style. So that's probably completely untrue.
Fits that fits the look of the car for sure, and the era of the car.
Right. It's all part of the myth and mystique.
The lore. Car. Yeah.
Do you know, before we get to the partying trick of your car, because you said there was one. Just real quick, because I just thought of it. You know, and if I'd be surprised if you don't, there's that secret cubby behind the driver's seat. So I
don't have that cubby.
You don't have that cubby? All I was going to go to with that is that's the cleanest DeLorean carpet you will ever see. Is in that cubby. Like,
behind
it is immaculate.
Or inside of it.
Inside of it, it's always sealed away. It's just like perfect. There's no like dirt in there. It's just like perfect time capsule of carpet from 1980.
So if you ever need to, source original carpet color, go into the cubby.
Go in the cubby. That's what it was. It almost looks in a gray upholstered car. The carpet in the cubby almost looks blue. Like it's so pure gray that in comparison to how dingy and kind of yellowed the other gray upholstery in the car is, it's so like shiny. It's like moving a couch off of area of carpet that hasn't been moved in 20 years. Like, in like a place where someone smokes, like a smoker's house. Like that's what the cubby in the back and behind the driver's seat of the DeLorean looks like.
So I got a 12-inch sub behind my driver's seat.
Okay.
And
that's
passenger
fine.
seat. So I got no cubbies. The battery's in the trunk.
Batteries in the trunk.
I prefer to have the cubby, but yeah.
So did they, in place of the cubby, did they make an insert, this like the dimensions of the cubby, or did they just replace all the wood back there? Because it's just wood. For kids who don't know, like, here's the interesting thing I think about DeLorean is it's stainless steel, and then the people who really know the car, they know that it's like vacuum molded fiberglass, and that's the actual shell of it. But there's a lot of wood, like particle board in the DeLorean, in the interior.
I have bare plywood right here across the whole bulkhead.
The bulkhead.
So they
wood.
just they took the carpet off the bulkhead, painted the bulkhead black, and put subs behind each seat.
Cool.
So I guess the cubbies are just voids now. I can't access them, unfortunately.
It makes perfect sense. Like those are big voids. The battery compartment behind the passenger seat, and to a lesser extent the cubby behind the driver's seat. Those are perfect, absolutely perfect voids for installing subwoofers. I have not done jack squat to the sound system in my car. As a matter of fact, I'll turn my thing around. You'll see the original. You know it because you've
got the
driven
Craig.
it. The original Craig. It's not even.
See,
I don't even know if it's Craig.
I prefer
Me too.
that.
That's why I haven't got rid of it.
This.
Because it's pure. Like you can't get a new tape deck. First of all, tape deck, and not one with a DMC logo on it. That's just so cool.
Exactly.
To me,
I have this going on.
Which
they
is also
relocated
cool.
the AC switch down here so that they could put the double down there, and it's I'd much rather it be original, but it's something.
They did a good job though. Like it's good. Like I like that the shift boot. That looks like the original shift boot to me. It looks like the original shift column.
It's
also.
torn. Oh yeah, and you still need to ship me yours.
I was gonna ask about that, dude. I forgot to ask about that. I was gonna be like, hey, now that you have one, do you still want the old crappy pieces?
You don't have to. It was just cool. Yeah, I keep
cool.
the carpet parts. I have these custom gauges too that I don't really care for.
I like the visibility of it.
Boost gauge.
Yeah.
But it says DMC turbo here, but I love that the original says DMC in the top left. I've always been obsessed with that.
Yeah. Let me see if I can get it with mine. There might not be enough light.
Yeah, the original.
I don't know if you could even see it, but I do like that. And again, that goes back to what we were talking about. Like any sort of improvement I do to the car is like I stick to as needed for the most part. For instance, we're talking about the instrument cluster up here. I need to replace all the lights in there. I think there's like one incandescent that still works. I need to replace it with all LEDs.
It worked 2 years ago, at least. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. I think one of the.
I drove it at night, and they were all green at the top.
Yeah. They're not green. Let me see here.
I'm pretty sure it was green.
I don't have the key in the car. If they were as green, it's just really bad. Those are bulbs from the 1980s that were probably manufactured in the 70s.
They're supposed to be white.
They're supposed to be white, exactly. But anyway, I need to, like, all the indicators and stuff like that, I need to, when I bring this to DMC for my next round of, make it betters, I'm going to say get in the dash and replace all the lights in the dash, make the air conditioning work, for the love of God. Like I've rebuilt the switch, once or twice. It's a brand new diaphragm in there and everything. The AC it just leaks, and so the AC leaks Freon, 40-year-old hoses and everything like that. And R34 is, the molecules are smaller, so they just escape out the hoses even faster. I've rebuilt the mode switch for people who don't know what I'm talking about. It's this switch. I've rebuilt that a few times, and it still kind of slips. So when I bring it to DMC, I'm like, all right, fix the AC. Because the AC, when it works in a DeLorean, is awesome. Like if you're using Red Tech, or even if you can source some Freon, it's ice cold. It's like meat locker, and you need it in a stainless steel cocoon like this. So replace that kind of stuff, replace the master slave cylinder and the clutch. give the coolant system, like replace every hose of the coolant system. I replaced one myself a few months back with the 8-bit guy, or after the 8-bit guy rode in here. Go through the whole coolant system, change all the hoses out, just basically get it back to like perfectly reliable again, because I don't want to, I'm always on the fence about renting it. Like I'm always, and that's why I appreciate the vetting process, is like, I really get to meet somebody if they're really passionate about the car, that's like A+, and so Colby was A+ for me renting the car. I think the last guy I rented it out to, super nice guy, they were loaded. Like I went to their house to pick it up, like it was all, like they were having a part, it was amazing. It was during the World Series. Anyways, I think he may have just romped on the clutch a little bit. And I think that's why I think he just kind of forced the issue. The clutch wasn't bad. It went bad on the way home. It was like a 50-mile return trip. And I was looking forward to it. I was like, awesome. Some good quality time just cruising down the interstate with the DeLorean. Yeah. And as I got closer, I was on Highway 6, going through Missouri City. I started pushing down the clutch at one of the intersections, and I was like, whoa, that engaged way too late. And then like the secondary push, like I have like 2 inches of travel, which doesn't engage. It doesn't do the thing that it needs to do. So I was like, what? Yeah. I kind of wanted, like, I was thinking, my first thought was, I'm glad I'm discovering this now. Like, I'm glad this didn't happen when he was driving it. And then my second thing was, it's oddly suspicious that this is happening now. Like, what did this guy do to it? And other than that, it was fine. That, like, nothing falling off. I don't think he did. I don't think he was bad with it. I just think maybe he didn't do this, but it's possible that he may have dropped the clutch or mashed on the whatever. It kind of forced the 4-year-old
to do a hard pull. Yeah,
hard pull to see what it could do or something like that. There's always plenty to do, plenty I can do with this, but I just try to keep it tasteful, and I'm super proud. We'll start. What was the parting trick before we start wrapping up? I want to see the trick your car can do.
So we're gonna have to go on a little journey.
Okay.
It's ridiculous. Just bear with me.
I want to see the engine too, if you can get to it.
Oh yeah, I can get to it. So I'm gonna flip the switch under the dash.
Okay.
That's step one. All right.
Is it by the frunk? Is it by the frunk puller? The frunk release?
Yes. There's a little metal switch back there.
Okay. Oh.
Hold on, let me wipe my camera.
Those are obviously LEDs. They've done the LED swap to the boards back there.
So the previous owner was an electrical engineer, so she had a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
So the back does that, the side markers do it.
Awesome.
And then something I'm going to remove, the front does it, but the scanner I'm going to remove.
It is cool though.
She said it's from like a Doctor Who scanner, but I thought of Kit immediately.
Yeah, like a green Kit scanner, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so let me kill that switch and then I'll show you the engine.
That's really fun though. I mean, it's original, but it's really fun. It's fun.
Exactly. All right. Put the camera. Another not original thing is these hood pins, because race car.
Yep. Entirely unnecessary, but yeah. Unless you're backing up.
The latch no longer works.
Right.
So let's see. Cool. I took the. Hold on, let me get a flashlight because I can't really see anything.
Nice and shiny.
I took it through a car wash. I need to actually detail it. All right, there we go. So
cool.
There's the engine. Still got the stainless bottle. You see the fuel rails here.
Yep.
There's the MSD ignition, and then the air. This air intake goes to an intercooler that's behind the pontoon.
Oh, cool.
The intercooler, it boots up when you start the car. There's the blow-off valve. So It sounds like a Fast and Furious when you're shifting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the turbo's down there. But what's a little interesting about it is that it's not dual exhaust. So we got a tip over here, and you could see that going over there. But since the turbo's down there, on this side, I have this pipe that's kind of weirdly there. I'm going to take the body kit off, and that pipe will be exposed. I also have the side skirts. I'm going to take those off. I think I already have them sold to someone. I just don't like them. I don't like the pimped out look, I don't like the stripes on the side. It's just not my bag.
Right. Well, I totally get it. So where's...
And that's the wife's Mini right there.
There you go. Nice. I was going to ask about that. Where is the nearest reputable DMC shop in Utah? I would think it's the one in California, maybe.
Yeah, so I'm in southern Utah. So I'm in St. George. I'm 2 hours from Vegas, 5 hours from LA. So I'm 5 hours from the nearest shop.
Right.
Are you getting the kitty?
Yeah. You can probably hear her on the show. I'm gonna stand next to mine now.
Yeah. I'm gonna pull the hood and show you the battery, since I know as an owner you're probably interested.
Yeah.
Right there is where the battery is.
Oh, cool. Okay. And that might actually, I mean, it's way off to the right, but it technically might help with weight distribution, maybe.
Yeah, if I'm alone in the car, at least.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
also, my hood sits really well.
Yeah.
All right, let me get back in position here. So yeah, the closest shop would be in Los Angeles. Since I'm only 5 hours from there.
Do you think...
I hope to do everything I need to do myself.
Right. That's cool. So the way I'm going to edit this, I'm just going to, for the radio show, I'm just going to like find stopping points and be like, well, that was Colby and da-da-da.
Yeah.
So right now we're just kind of riffing. I like seeing that car because that's kind of one of the more famous, I think, cars in the DeLorean community.
Yeah.
And the story you have of that it was the first car you rode in, and now it's the one you own. That's
my first DeLorean.
Yeah, that is just such a super cool story.
So
there was I don't know if I don't think it was you. There was somebody who was emailing me or texting me that they saw, like they were asking me whether or not they should pull the trigger on one that they found through a company that was going to ship from the UK for like $7,000. And I was telling this person, I was like, absolutely freaking not. You are going to lose $7,000. That is 100% scam. And I was kind of surprised because I hope it wasn't you. I don't think it was you. I think it was just completely someone separate. And I was just surprised that wasn't it. That there was subsequent conversation of me like talking him out of it. I was like, I know you wanted this thing your whole life, but this will ruin your life. There's no such thing as a $7,000 DeLorean. I mean, absolutely I don't care what. Yeah. So he's like, no,
it wouldn't have been like that.
Yeah. He's like, you said it's just $7,000. I was like, dude, I found this same listing on like 20 other websites under 20 other names using the same exact like random photos of a DeLorean in a field somewhere. Like, this is a scam. Please, for the love of God, don't do it. Like, it's just not happening. Keep hunting. Oh, I remember what I wanted to ask you, and maybe I'll include this. I definitely want to include this in the podcast. Have you heard of the new, seen anything obviously about the new electric coming out? Yes.
And I know what it's going to look like based on the Itala design concept car, the Da Vinci. That's what it is.
Are you sure about that? Do you think, is that a gut, or do you think that's really, really, really going to be what it is?
So look it up. look at the Da Vinci logo, look at the V in Da Vinci, and then go to DeLorean.com and look at the V on the front of the car and tell me it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
Maybe they'll maybe do some, DeLoreanization to it. Maybe it'll be silver only or something. I don't think it'll be stainless. I don't think it'll. I'll be frank with you about it.
Yeah.
I just do not care. I am not excited about it. I'm trying to be civil about it. It's my dream car.
Yeah.
It's my dream car. And I feel like they're just using the name for the sake of using the name to make an electric car startup company.
Right. For the hype of it.
For the hype. I'm really trying to think on this hard. It has nothing at all to do with the DeLoreans we know and love at all whatsoever. It's an electric car. It's just going to have gull-wing doors. It's no different than a Tesla in my books. It's just called a DeLorean. So now when people Google DeLorean, these won't be the only thing that pops up anymore, and that's kind of annoying.
Right.
To me, it's kind of like crapping on the legacy.
But
I guess.
As I understand it, it's the original. It's not. Well, there's no such thing as the original DeLorean Motor Company. It's been gone for decades. How I put it, like infinite money. If you could have a garage, OG DeLorean, and then infinite money. I'm talking your Elon Musk billionaire. Two DeLoreans, or it's just like no amount of money doesn't matter. I just have zero, absolutely zero. Or is it you're tilted to the needle for you kind of ticks towards, this is a harsh word, but kind of disdain. Like it's just going to murky the waters. It's not a DeLorean, like you said, in any shape or form that you might be happier or just as well that it never existed, or just call it the Da Vinci whatever from,
exactly. I think the second option you just gave is how I feel about it. It's not a DeLorean. It's because they can.
Right. Yeah.
Did you hear that? I think you cut out.
It did cut out a little bit, but I got the idea. You mentioned that they're using the name just because they can. When people Google search DeLorean, it's going to come up alongside. So it's built-in marketing for this in a EV landscape that's going to be increasingly competitive. It's just kind of like, let's use whatever we got. Like even it's going to have the hype of the DeLorean in it, but it's not anywhere thing. I would love to see it in stainless steel. Like I know that's unlikely, but like I would be like, that's cool if it was.
If they did that, that would make me give them some credibility. But there is no way they're going to do that. There's no way.
No, you know why?
If you look at the concept car, you can't build stainless steel in those shapes.
Right, you can't exactly, and it would be. Not that stainless steel is necessarily heavy, but for that any sort of modern car, other than like the Tesla, which if you look at the Cybertruck, will we ever see the Cybertruck in the first place? Just how the shape of it, it's easy to make cold rolled stainless steel in that shape. It's easier to make stainless steel in the shape of the DeLorean. Yeah. Stainless steel is not easy to work with. It's too heavy for modern cars. You would need, just like the DeLorean, it would need to be a skin on top of something else in most cases, at least in the EV's case, because they're not going to be using like 1/8 inch thick steel on this thing. It would be like tinfoil over carbon fiber or something like that. So we'll see. It's exciting. The buzz is exciting. We'll see what it turns out to be. As far as my opinion is concerned, I asked my nephew this the other day. I want to ask you the same thing. What do you think that the new DeLorean's pricing is going to start at? I've got my theory, but I want to just picking your brain.
Made anywhere from 60 to 150K. I think.
Yeah, that's about
What do
what
you
I
think?
thought. I was thinking it was going to start at 120, like nothing below 120. And
I mean, that makes complete sense.
and if and when it ever comes out, and I tend to lean towards it. You know, it will, if they've built a facility in San Antonio to manufacture these
Oh
things.
yeah.
They're going to come out with something.
Yeah.
But okay, let's say it's stickers offered for 120,000. No one in their grandmother is going to be able to actually get it for 120. That thing's going to be
No.
175, 200. People are going to be paying crazy money for this all day long
Then you'll have your.
because of all the hype, basically.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
gonna because of all the hype, because of the rarity. At the end of the day, I'm just like, if it's a good EV, cool. Like if it goes 0 to 60 in like 2 seconds and has all the fancy EV. My daily driver is the EV. I've got that Chevy Bolt over there out front.
Mm-hmm.
I love EVs, but like if it's a cool EV, like the next thing coming pretty much is going to be that Tesla Roadster. There's so much competition in this hypercar, supercar EV space that the one, like perhaps the only thing going for the DeLorean EV is that it's called the DeLorean EV. I would much like honestly, I would be so much more hyped if DeLorean Motor Company and Humble actually continued to further along the development of the EV conversion for the original cars. Like if they got that nailed down, like with a Tesla powertrain or with a GM powertrain, EV Ultium, whatever, 300 miles of range, 250 miles of range, 0 to 60, 4 seconds kind of thing. Like in this car, just with some bolstering of the suspension and tightening of things up and making it kind of more modern like that, but it's still the original DeLorean with an official EV conversion. And they said for that one, like when they were like 10 years ago, when they were going down this trail, they're like, yeah, we're going to start it at $100,000. And that, which was, okay, fine. That seems reasonable for what it is. Like you're going to make a handful of these every year. Sure. And then they started, and I had them on the show, James Espy on once or twice, just kind of talking about the rumors of the new DeLorean, like the new one that the new old stock that they were redeveloping and retooling the interiors and sourcing new engines and working the government, all the red tape that they're having to deal with. It was a nightmare. People don't understand how hard it is to make these one-off cars or these low production vehicles. It's a nightmare. So all I'm getting at is now I'm hoping to have them on the show again, because I want to ask, like, straight up, first question, what's happening with that? Is this new EV venture, does that mean that the new DeLorean with the new engine and all that kind of stuff is out the window? Are you just focusing all your attention on this EV? That's my first guess. That would be my bet, is what a freaking nightmare it's been over the last decade to try to make a new DeLorean with an internal combustion engine, that they just probably scrapped the whole thing and said, EV's the future, let's just focus on this. So that's my guess, but I want to ask them what's going on with because I would like both. Like I would like for them to be doing both. That would be really cool. But I just think as a company, like, are we going to keep pouring potentially millions of dollars into something that might not ever happen? We just bought this facility in San Antonio. I don't think the old new DeLorean is going to happen. I think they're putting all their eggs in this EV basket. Now, if this EV thing
100%.
takes off, if the DeLorean Motor Company is truly resurrected and they make this first, bat out of hell first car, just like the original DMC was, and it's popular, and then they start making family sedans and things like that, maybe if they have enough money, they'll, but still, like, you're thinking like 10, 15 years down the line, like no new manufacturer in their right mind is going to be putting money into internal combustion. If they're that far down the road with their EV company.
It makes me sad.
Yeah.
It makes me sad.
It makes me sad. It makes me hold on to my ice.
Yeah, I just electric cars personally just bore me, I guess. I'm not against them. They just
For a daily,
I guess like for an example, for a daily driver, no brainer.
Right.
But for a fun car, like I just rode in a Skyline GTR R35 for the first time in my life about 2 hours ago.
yeah,
It didn't scare me. Maybe it was just how the guy was driving it. I don't know, but it was so refined that we did 100 and I was like, oh,
yeah.
but I could do 30 in the DeLorean and I'm terrified. So like
It's not that bad. 30 in an old
this
Bug
one
is terrifying.
Yeah. I just mean the steering's like it gives you adrenaline. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, whereas these modern cars, they're so refined that there's like, it doesn't feel like it's going to get you if you like drive it wrong.
Right.
Whereas an EV is an even further version of that. It's like, oh, now you're just driving a laptop along with your 30-inch touchscreen and your cappuccino. It's like, it's lovely for a daily, but for an enthusiast car, it's just not exciting.
No.
And I feel the same for the new car. Nothing makes it a DeLorean other than the name. It's not John DeLorean. He's not here. What made this a thing was he was this top dog GM executive going off and making his bad A new company.
Mm-hmm.
And mad respect to Steven and DeLorean Motor Company.
Right.
But as in the words of the Mandalorian, this is not the way.
It is the way, I think, competitively, financially.
Yeah.
But as far as like keeping the legacy of DeLorean alive, it's not even a breath of connection between the original DeLorean Motor Company or the current DeLorean.
Financially it's the way.
Right. In
terms of like, ooh, we got the edge because we have the cool name over like Karma and Fisker or whatever it is. No one knows what Fisker is, so why would they care? Well, everyone knows what a DeLorean is.
Right.
So then we're going to have our grandpas pulling up, business owners in their new DeLorean, and they're like, look at my DeLorean. They come outside and they're like, that's not a DeLorean. Is that a Tesla?
Yeah.
You know,
right.
I could rant on forever. Just a heads up. Yeah. I have 1% battery on the iPad. If it hangs up, it's not me ending the call.
No, yeah, we got plenty.